Hello, and welcome, everybody, to Life of Pisces podcast. Life of Pisces podcast. We're starting here in 2023. This is the inaugural episode. Yes, 1A episode. And I'd just like to welcome everybody. My name is Christine Marguerite. I sometimes go by DJ Libelu, often known as Love Evolve Energy. And if you're watching a visual recording of this podcast, then you'll see my face and you'll see the little scrolly thing beneath. Otherwise, it's just kind of me. So what's happening in this podcast is I'm talking with myself and other selves, meaning other people. There's a big fat series with a dear friend of mine. So let me tell you what we're doing. We're talking about what would be known as mysticism. And perhaps these days we would call it generally spirituality. Now we're going to unpack that word, which is a word that I have a hard time with because it means too many different things to too many different people. And there's no real consensus about what that means, although it does point at something. I think mysticism maybe gives it a little bit more woo-woo sense. Anyway, we debunk a lot of things. We're talking about all of our experiences. Myself, Christine Marguerite, and Julia Wesley. We're having a big series of conversations with Julia. As you can see right now, and you can probably hear from my voice, I'm recording this very late at night. It's not quite wee hours of the morning, but it might as well be. I just wanted to say welcome. And maybe I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, just to give you a sense of things. Since I can remember, since they're a little tot. I've been having mediumship type experiences and things of that sort. And by the time I was in my teens, those increased, as well as strange kind of energetic happenings that I experienced through my body. Anyway, I pushed a lot of that aside until I moved to New York City, in the 80s, which was the heyday of the New Age movement, and got involved with a lot of healers there, sound healing, crystal healing, other kinds of energy healing and intuitive things, and mostly did a lot of studying and meditating in my spare time. And it wasn't until decades later, after I've been meditating for a healthy 20 plus years, that I really began to look at this stuff again. I'd packed everything away and tried to have sort of a more normal life in a way. And then things started to come about for me, enhanced by many different things. And I will probably bring up all of these events at some point during these podcast sessions. But suffice it to say, I could either ignore things that were arising, or I could meet them head on and really explore them and see what was what. And that began a whole series of experimentations that led into more trainings to hone my skills. And apparently these are sometimes called gifts. And eventually became not just an energy healer, energy seer, and energy channel, but along with that, people might call that mediumship. They might also call it intuitive reading. And I do a little bit of that still, intuitive reading. And these days, I see less clients, and I am just starting this podcast to see what happens next and to talk about my experiences and my opinions, because I have many opinions that are discerning without judgment of what's going on these days. A lot of people are quote unquote waking up. So that means apparently they've been sleeping and now they're rubbing their eyes and waking up, and we've got all of our baby psychics running around, and who knows what's it and that's it and all those things. So I've been around the block for decades, and I'm watching this happen en masse now. This becomes a great part of the conversations I have with Julia Wesley. And those are coming up right away. So far, I'm just talking about my spiritual, mystical experience and others' spiritual, mystical experiences along this life path. And debunking some myths, asking some pretty good and hopefully sometimes challenging questions, and holding some perhaps unpopular points of view and opinions on what's happening these days, and all those things. So I know this is pretty general, so if you want more specific, you're going to have to look at the and listen to the podcast coming up. The first couple of episodes deal with what I just mentioned, and that is mediumship in a very specific past, loved ones who are now dead, communication to a much broader understanding of what mediumship can be. And these few conversations are between myself and Julia, as I've mentioned, and how we've been reluctant mediums pretty much our entire lives, and how we've coped with that, and how we've accepted it and what it looks like. So that's going to kick off this podcast series. I hope you enjoy it. You can check out more about me, Love Evolve Energy. Put a .com after that, and you can find all my stuff. You can find me on YouTube, sometimes Facebook, sometimes Instagram. And that's pretty much about it for now. We'll see how things go. Julia, you can find out about her at divinerealignment.com. All right, so enjoy yourself. Thanks for listening to this introduction. We'll skip over to episode 2A to begin. All right, have a great night, everybody. Great morning, great afternoon, and love yourself hard. Catch on the flip.